Hey, I'm Julie. And if you've ever set a goal, meant it completely, done everything right, and still watched yourself do the exact opposite, well, this episode is going to explain why. You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're not lacking discipline. You're trying to steer with 5% of your brain while the other 95% is running a program that you didn't write, one that was installed before you were even 7 or 8 or 9. And by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why willpower keeps losing, and you'll have a way to actually work with that 95% instead of fighting it. Hey everyone, welcome to my show. I'm Julie, as I said, and this is Your Upgrade show, which is every Wednesday at 7:30, every Wednesday at 11:30, where I'm coming live to you with a new episode that I hope is going to really help transform your life. So, whenever you watch any of these episodes, there are some other episodes that I've already filmed, so please go back to them, because in every episode, I like to share some knowledge with you, but I also like to share a tool or technique that you can actually use going forward. So as I do these shows, I can't remember, this is 5 or 6 now. It's happening so fast, I can't believe it. I'm building that catalogue for you. So go back and look at any of those old ones. Please go on my YouTube channel, Milliside Therapy and Coaching, and please subscribe, because the more subscribers I get, the more people will see my show, and therefore the more people we can help, and the more people can start moving and transforming their lives too. So without any further ado, let me start on today's session. So we've already said that things are happening, and it's not because you're lazy, it's about your subconscious programming. Now, you know you should do things differently, and you've known that for years, right? And you tell yourself you're going to stop over preparing for meetings, and then you spend 3 hours on a deck that no one's really going to read. You decide you're going to say yes to things that you don't have capacity for. Then someone asks and you just say yes. You set a boundary on Sunday, and by Wednesday it's gone and you can't even remember letting it go. You're putting in conscious effort here, and you're making decisions, setting the attention. And it's like someone else is driving. So are you recognizing any of these? And if you are, please drop them in the chat. Okay. If any of those recognize, put 1, 2, or 3, or if there's anything new, just put them in the chat for me. And by all means, throughout this episode, and even if you're watching on replay, please put comments in the chat, because it does get quite lonely when you're sitting up here all alone, not knowing if anyone's with me or not. So let's get involved. Let's start understanding what's really going on here. Now, your conscious mind, the part doing the goal setting and the strategic thinking, and the I'm going to do it differently this time, that's roughly 5% of your processing power. Now, the other 95% is running on autopilot from patterns that were set before you were old enough to question. So you're not failing at change. You're trying to win a fight where you're massively outnumbered by yourself. And I'm going to show you exactly why that fight is rigged, what your brain is hiding from you, and how to actually get that 95% working with you instead of against you. Now, there's a simple tool at the end of this, something you can use this week to start catching that program in action. But first, you need to understand how that program got written. Now, this session is really all about willpower, okay? So between birth and about the age of 7, your brain is actually pretty much like acting like a sponge. It doesn't really have a filter. So therefore, there is no critical thinking, there's no logic, and everything just goes straight in. So if you grew up in an environment where maybe love felt conditional on performance, that become a rule, not a thought that you had, a rule your brain now runs automatically. Now, if you learned early on that being visible meant being criticized, your brain filed that as visibility equals danger. And it's protecting you from visibility ever since. Now, these aren't memories you can access. They're operating instructions running beneath your subconscious programming, and you're not really aware of them. Okay. Now, think about how you learnt to tie your shoelaces when you were very young. Now, it was very difficult to start with, wasn't it? It's very complicated. There was lots of things you needed to do, lots of things you needed to think about. And it took a lot of your concentration. But once you did it, you practiced, you learnt by repetition. Now you can do it without even looking. Well, hopefully you can, if you did get taught that when you were young, right? But it's that unconscious program. It's working behind without you even thinking about it. In the same way that we're breathing, it's breathing, and we don't ask it to ask our body to breathe. It does it automatically. So that's how everything works. Once something has been repeated enough, it moves from conscious effort to automatic program. The problem is your survival strategies did the same thing. The people pleasing, the over preparing, the saying yes when you mean no, they got repeated so many times that they became automatic. So now you're trying to use conscious effort to override something that doesn't live in the conscious part of your brain anymore. It's like trying to change the way you breathe. You can do it for a minute, maybe two, then you get distracted and you're back to the old pattern. So failing to change isn't about lack of effort. It's because you're trying to use conscious tools to solve a problem that no longer lives in the conscious part of your brain. Now, I'm going to tell you something that you may or may not know, but every brain filters your reality to match your old program. And here's why it's really interesting. So we all have something called a reticular activating system, which we call the RAS for short. But what it does is very simple. It shows you evidence that confirms what you already believe about yourself. Think of it like a firewall. It constantly curates your incoming reality, only allowing data that matches your childhood programming to match through to your conscious awareness. That might be quite a lot of words to take in, right? But let me just repeat that. It constantly curates your incoming reality, only allowing data that matches your childhood programming to pass through to your conscious awareness. So if you have a core belief that you must struggle to be valuable, that filter deletes the positive feedback and highlights every stressful interaction or urgent email, reinforcing the idea that you have to keep working harder than anyone else. It's not about what's true. It's not about what's available to you, but what matches your existing programming. So let's see if we can make this a little bit easier to understand. So if you were programmed early on to believe that you have to work harder than anyone else to be valued, your brain keeps finding evidence for that. So every email, every meeting, every interaction, that gets filtered through that RAS lens. You think you're seeing reality, but you're seeing a curated version that keeps the old program running. It's like looking at the world through a lens shaped by beliefs that you didn't actually choose. And everything you see confirms those beliefs, so they feel like facts. Yeah, so if you've got a belief that you're just feeding and you're telling it, it's learning by repetition, right? In the same way that we learned to tie our shoelaces. But these are the things that we don't necessarily want to learn and have repeated over and over again. But it's about understanding what those beliefs, or could be feelings or emotions, are all about, okay? And this is why surface level change doesn't stick. So you might try to manage your anxiety maybe for a week. You might set boundaries for a few days. You might stop people pleasing on a Tuesday. But if that root belief underneath is still running, it's just another way out, right? Now, I do like an analogy, as you know, and I've got a nice little image I want to share with you now of this tree. Now, this is what I want you to think about. All the branches at the top here are your behaviors, your actions, your habits, your beliefs. All right. And below are the root of all of those. Now, in this instance on this tree, it's got quite a few real deep rooted roots, shall we say, in here, right? Going up into this beautiful tree. Now, we can do a good job at trimming some of these branches, but actually, if we're not fixing what's at the root, then we're only doing what we call surface level change. And don't get me wrong, doing things here and changing things here are all amazing and they can all bring better things into your life. But fundamentally, until we change it at the root, nothing really shifts. So I want you to think of these branches as your imposter syndrome, as your stress, as your anxiety, all the things that are going on in life, your imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, all these things are all in the branches of your tree. All right. So what do we do? How can we fix it? Well, that's when we need to do the deep work. And that's how I work with my clients. But I just want you just for a moment, just to think about your branches. What behaviors do you keep trimming, or what behaviors should you be trimming, and what behaviors should you be dealing with at the root? So I'm going to leave my little tree up there for a minute, just so that you can, you've got that visual there to think about it. And maybe take some time this evening or later today, just to maybe jot down some of the things that, what behaviors are you running basically that are not necessarily good for you? And maybe you might even be able to stop and just close your eyes and just see if you can come up with a childhood experience maybe that was actually linked to that time, and just to try and process it. So how can we do some changes and trim those branches a little bit in our everyday life? Now, this is what I'm going to share with you for this episode. It's a simple move that you can use whenever you catch yourself doing the thing that you said you wouldn't do. All right. So what I will do actually is I'll ask my editor if he can put these up on the screen for us when we do the edit of the video, so that you can see these different steps here. But step number 1 is going to be catch the moment. So I want you to notice when you've done something that doesn't match what you consciously want. Maybe you said yes when you meant no. Maybe you over-prepared again. Maybe you sent that email at 11 p.m. proving that you're on top of things, right? It's always good, right, to show that you're still working late at night. Or is it? But don't judge it, just notice. Just notice there it is. So catch the moment. Now, step number 2 is name the belief the behavior is protecting. So ask yourself, what would I have to believe about myself for this behavior to make sense? If I'm over preparing, maybe the belief is I'm not enough without that extra effort. If I'm saying yes to everything, maybe the belief is my value depends on being useful. And if I am sending those emails at 11 p.m, maybe that belief is I have to prove I'm working harder than anyone else. Does any of this resonate? Now, you're not trying to fix it. You're just trying to make this invisible visible, really, because making awareness, starting with awareness, is the first step to making any change. Now, step number 3 is ask what that lens is hiding. So if your brain is filtering reality to match that old belief, what might you be missing? What opportunities aren't you seeing because they don't fit I have to struggle narrative? What evidence that you've already enough is in your brain filtering out? Now, this isn't positive thinking. It's recognizing that your current view isn't neutral. It's curated by programming you didn't choose. Now, when I say we didn't choose this, I want to just quickly show you my rewire method here. This is where we're talking about when things happen in our childhood, right? Between 0 and 7. It can happen later, but the biggest chunk of who we are in our identity is built at that young age, mainly because we didn't have logic and we take everything at face value. But a lot of things happen in that period of time. So when we work with my identity box rewind method, we are looking to regulate the nervous system. We want to expose those patterns, and we need to work with the body to work and process these. We need to identify what we need to rewire, and we need to repattern it, reprogram that subconscious programming so that we can be that new identity. I'm hoping this is making sense for you all. And now I've lost my notes. So that's very good, isn't it? Bear with me, caller. Hold the line, caller. So with the identity, we need to make sure that we can move from the gap where we are in our identity to where we should be. And in one of my other episodes, we talked about the identity gap. So we need to understand where that identity has come from, where it's been, and how we can actually improve it. So let me get back on track for you. Hang on a second. All right. So we've done we want to catch the moment. We want to understand what's going on by naming that belief, that behavior it's protecting, and ask what that lens is hiding. So let's put that into a few practical scenarios for you, because I know that is easier, isn't it, when you can think about it in real life. So let's use an example when you're in a meeting. Someone asks you to volunteer for a high visible project. You feel pulled back. Maybe you feel some physical reaction in your body. Your chest has tightened or your heart is racing. Or maybe you had that sickness feeling in your stomach. I mean, has anyone felt that? And you're sitting there and you know that you should put your hand up. And you're so annoyed with yourself afterwards for not saying something or doing something, but you just didn't. Something stopped you. Now, using that as an example, that's when you can use your lens check, right? The behavior that you're pulling back, the belief underneath might be visibility is dangerous, or I'll get found out if I'm too visible. Now, the lens is hiding. You've handled high visibility situations before, but you were fine, right? And your brain filtered that evidence out. I hope this makes sense. Please add anything in the chat if you've got any comments. Now, another scenario. Now, this is a favorite of many of my clients, right? And I remember this as well. It's Sunday evening. You're already thinking about Monday. You can feel that tightness starting already. Now, let's do that lens check. The behavior is scanning for threat before anything's happened. Now, the belief underneath might be, I have to stay ahead of problems or something bad will happen. Now, the lens is hiding. Most of the things you worry about on Sunday never actually happen on a Monday, but your brain doesn't show you that data. So you're not trying to change the behavior yet. You're just starting to see the program. And this, again, is about awareness, right? If you're not even stopping to acknowledge what's going on, you're just going to carry on with that behavior that you've been running for years. But if you want to make a change, you have to start recognizing what's going on. So here's what becomes possible when you do start recognizing what's going on and you do start taking notice. When you start seeing that lens instead of just seeing through it, something shifts. You stop thinking you're the problem. You start seeing you as running a program. And then you understand that that program can be updated. Now, an interesting fact that's just come into my head, right? We all have heard of the word mindset, right? Now, back in the day, it was believed that whatever your mind was, it was set and you couldn't change it. Now, always you could change it, but obviously people, especially now, they want to prove that things can actually work. But now they can prove it. Now with brain scans and things like that, they can actually see how you can change your neuro pathways. So your mind is never set. Your mind can be changed. And it isn't actually that difficult to do once you know what you're doing and you maybe get the right help to do that. And that's what we're doing in our identity box rewire method. In fact, I did an interview with a guy called Darren years ago, and it's on my YouTube channel, where he actually had an accident as a small child. I think he fell down some stairs and he really got bad brain damage. But they didn't have all the brain scans back then, but later on in his life, later on in his life, they did do brain scans and they discovered, I think it was 2/3 of his brain was dead. But anyway, over lockdown and different things like that, he's a very smart man. He'd started learning different things. He was training in all different things, right? And then the next time he went back for his brain scan, he thought they'd pulled up the wrong one. And he said, no, sorry, doctor, that can't be mine, because the brain had actually regrown. I mean, how powerful is that? And there's so many, scientific studies now that you can go and watch and listen and understand that actually prove this. And I think it's great now that we can actually physically see this proof because we know it actually works. All right. So there's nothing stopping any of us reprogramming our brains, right? So you can stop thinking you're the problem and you can start seeing yourself as running a program. And that program can be updated. And as I said, that's the work I do with my clients with my identity box rewire method. We go deeper than that lens. We check and we actually make changes. What's actually running at that root level? But the lens check is where it starts. Seeing the program instead of it just being run. Okay, so having that awareness is, I can't stress enough. You've got to stop what you're doing and you've got to start understanding that you need to have this awareness, right? Now, because when that 95% is working, it is working with you instead of against you, everything can change. The goals that you set will actually stick, and the boundaries you hold, the overthinking will then start quietening down. Not because you're trying harder, but because your operating system underneath has been updated. Now, I like to always use the mobile analogy, right? Now, whatever mobile that you use, every year or two, you have to upgrade it, right? Same with your laptop, desktop, anything that's technology driven. Now, if you don't update them, they don't work anymore. They become slow, they become sluggish. You can't use the new apps and things like that on it, right? So without too much thought, you upgrade your mobile phone or your laptop or whatever it is you need, because you know you need them for everyday life. Yet, if we think of ourselves as someone that needs upgrading, it's kind of like the last thing that we do, because many people just put ourselves last. And actually, your self-development is your most important tool, because once you are the best version of yourself, your life becomes limitless. It becomes abundant. You can become the best version of you, do whatever you want. And once you start tapping into your intuition, then things can really change. Now, I never knew any of this back in the day, and I wish I did, but I do know it now. And once you know it, you can't unknow it. And I love knowing that I know this stuff because I can make changes in my life. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I did a whole day event called Spring Reset. And I've got a lot of things going on in my life like everybody else has. I've got elderly parents that take up a lot of time. And my time limit for creating this was, getting smaller and smaller. But what I did was I actually tapped into myself and I actually intuitively created that whole day event. And I did it quite quickly because I sat and thought about, okay, what would I want? What do they need? And then I created it, and it was really successful and it was amazing. And they got great insight, great shifts, just because I sat there one day and just intuitively created it. I would never have been able to do that before. I probably would have created a great event, but it would have been completely based on logic and really overthinking it and everything else. But I didn't have time to overthink it. It was about using my time wisely and, tapping into my intuition, into my higher self and creating something amazing. And you can all do that. Now, the thing that you're going to do for me this week, your one action that I want you to take, if you're up for it, of course. I want you to pick one behavior that keeps showing up, even though you decided to change it. Maybe that's the over preparing. Maybe that's saying yes when actually you mean no. Maybe it is waking up at 2 a.m, replaying the day's conversations, or sending that email at 11 p.m. Can also be personal life stuff, right, as well. It's not just work. This impacts the whole of your life. But the next time you do something like that, I want you to catch it. I want you to notice yourself doing it. And I want you to run it through that lens check. So remember, it's catch the moment, name the belief, and ask what the lens is hiding. You don't necessarily have to try and change anything, but I just want you to notice it's going on and just see the program. I mean, if you do want to make changes, obviously that's great. Write them down, journal, process, close your eyes, go and try and find that childhood experience that's connected to it. But do it at least once this week and see what you notice. So let's have a quick look in the chat, see if there's anything in there. We've got the lovely Cordelia's here with me. I think the wow in here was actually when I was talking about the brain regrowing, because I remember seeing that pop up. But please drop in a chat if you've got any questions. Now, if you ran the lens check and thought, right, I can see this program, but how do I actually change it? Well, that could be your next step. That could be your opportunity to reach out and book your free 45-minute upgrade game plan, right? And what we do in that session is we look at what's driving your patterns and what's running it and see what needs to be shifted at the root. And at that point, that's when you can decide if you want to come and work with me. But you'll still get great insight into that 45-minute session. It's all free. Now, currently at the moment, it's going so well at the moment. I've got a lot. I think I'm fully booked, but I'm not sure. I'll check. But just all you need to do is I'm going to put a little QR code up here. So all you need to do is QR code that and get yourself on the waiting list. And then as soon as I've got a spot, I'll come back to you. I might have a spot this week. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I'll have to check. But get your name down anyway, and then at least you're in my world, and then we can have a conversation when the time is appropriate. Okay. And I'm currently coming up with some new amazing audios for you. So, but they're not ready yet, and I'll let you know when they're ready. So let's put something in the chat here. Okay. What's one behavior that keeps showing up every time? I'm just going to, sorry, before we do that, just let me know if there's any. I just want you to let me know if there's anything that's going on right now that you can put in a chat. I will drop a link in about the game plan as well shortly, but my hand-eye coordination is not really working for me right now, so I will do that in a minute. Now, let's just do a summary of today's session. Now, you'll always hear me banging on about the 5% versus the 95%. But remember, the 95% is where all this is happening in autopilot. Programming set before you were 7, 8, 9 or 10, it doesn't matter. But back then you didn't have logic. So this is when we've created beliefs about things that actually don't make any sense whatsoever when we look at them in real life. But they form part of our identity. And those beliefs are running that behavior. They're the beliefs that are running what's going on in the office every day. All right. So remember, your brain filters reality to match the existing beliefs. We have the RAS that filters. So if you're filtering negativity every day, then that RAS is going to go, oh, I need more of that. I'm going to give you more negativity. And that's going to be reinforced by your root beliefs. Okay. And then remember, we've got our tree. So that's where our branches are actually where all our things are going on. All right, the branches are here, the roots are all going on here, but we need to clear the root if we really want to live that abundant life. And, you know, I'm not talking out on my backside with this either, by the way, because I've done so much work on myself now, and I don't recognize myself, and it does make me laugh to myself in a good way. But what, sitting here with my new microphone, by the way. I hope you like it. Hope it's got my nice sexy voice coming through now. But we can change. And whatever job, any career, whatever you're doing in your life, please do not think this is it. It is 100% possible to make changes. And you can start by doing just that small lens check. Catch the moment, name the belief and the behaviours protecting it, and ask what the lens is hiding. So I'm just going to put back, we've got in the links now, the game plan, if you want to book that. But I'm just going to check the chat, see if there's anything in there. There's nothing in there at the moment. Okay. So I think that's probably about it for today then. So remember, you are entitled to live the most amazing life. You are entitled to upgrade your identity to bring you up to where you are now and bring that lag closer together. So thank you for watching me today. And if you're watching this on replay, please put #replay and please put any questions in there and I'll do my best to come back to you. Please go to my YouTube channel and like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week with another amazing episode. Thank you for watching. Take care.